reach out. What do you see? Light. Darkness. A balance. It's so much bigger. I only know one truth. It's time for the Jedi to end.
Nothing will stand in our way.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
I will finish what you started.
Who are you?
I'm no one. There are stories about what happened.
It's true. All of it.
The Force. It's calling to you.
May the Force be with us.
My nerd road.
Just let it in.
Oh, Jabba.
Why does she get a blaster and I do?
Oh, Jabba.
Where do we begin? Welcome to My Nerd World and the Star Wars podcast. It is just me for this bonus podcast today as we break down the Last Jedi trailer that just dropped. This one's taken a bit of time to digest. I've had the opportunity to watch it several times now. I'm your host, Jon Justice, without Sam and Drew today. Sam and Drew will be back on the podcast. Hopefully we'll have that up on Monday, where we'll be able to talk with both of them and get further into the trailer. And I'm really looking forward to having the opportunity to hear other fans' thoughts of what they saw. I'm sure that my views on a couple of things, well, probably several things, will change between now and then. So on Monday we'll have a full podcast devoted to kind of everything surrounding Star Wars Celebration, but mostly focused on The Last Jedi. I'm going to give you what I know, what I am basically pulling away from this trailer, and like I said, we'll get into more of it coming up with Drew and Sam on Monday for an official episode 82, I believe that we're on. This trailer took me a couple of views before I really began to latch onto it. It's hard not to have your expectations be so high. It's hard watching a trailer when your expectations are so high, when you're that excited about watching something. And it took me a couple views before I really began to realize what it is we were being told, what it is we were being shown. And it makes sense that this trailer, and I would be shocked, I would be absolutely shocked to find out that Rian Johnson, the director of The Last Jedi, did not put this trailer together by hand. There is way too much going on inside this trailer to have this being just put together by the individuals that normally put together trailers. This trailer is a lot deeper than I think a lot of people realize, and you have to really get into the shots, and we're going to basically go shot by shot with the trailer. I will say that I was planning on doing it split up. I have some knowledge that adds quite a bit of depth to what we see in the trailer. These are spoilers. I will say this, though, if you are spoiler phobic, anything directly related to the core of this plot, I'm extrapolating. Anything directly related to where we are heading with the central storyline is my speculation. The spoilers that I have to share are I would put them in the target category spoilers, and I got that from MakingStarWars.net. What I mean by target spoilers is that these are things that you would find out when the toys are released on the store shelf, either because of the toys themselves or because of the information that is given on the back of the toys. This is background information, background details. If you don't want to know any of the background details either, I will do my best to kind of give you a bit of a warning, but again, anything that I mention that is directly related to the storyline or to the central themes is speculation on my part. I do not know what the storyline is. Apart from what we were told today, we have a general idea, and it really looks as if this movie, while it is not going to be a send-up or a copy like a lot of people thought the Force Awakens was to The Empire Strikes Back, it really is beginning to look like, okay, they are really mirroring the original trilogy here. And from what I'm gathering in what this trailer told me, this movie is going to add a layer to the mythology that is going to upend what we have to unlearn what we have learned, if I can go into Yoda speak. This is really going to upend what we know so far of the Jedi, the dark side, the nature of the Force, and it really is mirroring to a certain extent The Empire Strikes Back. I mean, you could have called it The First Order Strikes Back, and there are a few things in the film that already tell me, okay, we're going to get some things that are going to be echoing, if you will, The Empire Strikes Back. Most of what I've heard about the movie from those that know and have some knowledge of the film, this will not be looked at like The Force Awakens was to A New Hope. It will be new and fresh. And one of the things about it, and I've got a list of notes here, I'm going to try to abide by them. One of the things I noticed with the trailer just off the bat is that, boy, does it look new and fresh. It looks Star Wars, and we see the Resistance X-Wings in there. We see some A-Wings, but they're different. But we also see some stuff aesthetics-wise that I've never seen before. Some of the space battle shots, those are ships that I don't know what they are. I've never seen them before. It really does have a new, fresh feel to it, which, was one of the complaints that people had about The Force Awakens, was that it didn't go, it wasn't fresh enough. And I'm so going to watch that movie so hard tonight. You have no idea. So let's start here. I'm going to talk a little bit about the panel for those that missed it. So for those that didn't know, Star Wars Celebration is going on in Orlando. There was an hour-long panel that featured Josh Gad was hosting, and then it featured Kathleen Kennedy, the director Rian Johnson, and then they brought out Daisy Ridley and John Boyega out to talk about the film as well. Plus Mark Hamill, and then a new character. Her name is Rose, Kelly Marie Tran. And one of the things that Rian Johnson said about this new character was she's essentially a maintenance worker in the Resistance, and she gets pulled off of her everyday job and becomes a very, very big part of this movie. If you don't know much about Rian Johnson, he directed Looper, a movie which I love. Also a movie called The Brothers Bloom, which I also really enjoyed. And a film called Brick, which I have not seen. We covered this in a previous podcast. There was a list of movies that Rian Johnson told the actors to go and watch. 12 O'Clock High was on there. Seven Samurai, I think, was on there as well. Look, this is a deep director. I love J.J. Abrams. I absolutely love J.J. Abrams movies. But they're J.J. Abrams movies. He to me embodies the closest thing to, say, a Steven Spielberg, where Rian Johnson is a writer. He has a very unique sense of style, a very unique sense of screenwriting. He's just deeper. I guess it's the simplest way to put it. He's just a deeper director, very character-oriented, probably even more so than J.J. Abrams, even though J.J. Abrams does a fantastic job with characters. And again, I really think that he told us a lot in this trailer. So let me get back to the panel. So during the panel, Daisy Ridley, who plays Rey, was asked about her character in the movie, and we know that the movie picks up where The Force Awakens left off. My guess, and this plays in a bit to the trailer, my guess is that the movie will probably start with General Hux, who we did see in some background shots, taking Kylo Ren right after, because we know General Hux gets Kylo Ren off of Starkiller Base before it explodes and turns into a star. Probably taking him to go see Snoke, who we know features prominently in the film. That's where I think this is going to start, with something ominous, echoing what we saw in The Empire Strikes Back. And then I think we're going to pick up right back on Ahch-To with Rey and with Luke. Daisy's comments, and I don't have the exact quote in front of me, but essentially she said that when she meets Luke, it is not what she expected. This plays into what we were told, and we're getting into minor spoiler territory here. But again, this is stuff that I think you can kind of extrapolate on your own. Luke is going to be mirroring the Yoda character from The Empire Strikes Back. He's not going to fully have his wits about him. Considering everything that he's been through, considering the fact that he tried to start a Jedi Academy, and then Kylo Ren, right, killed the individuals there, essentially burned it down. We saw that in The Force Awakens, when Luke is there with R2, which is very significant to this trailer. And getting into what I'll get into here in a moment, Luke is in a bad place. And he has to be in a bad place. To go search for the first Jedi Temple, to isolate himself out on Ahch-To, probably sensing, just like Leia did, that Han Solo died. Yes, Sam, Han Solo died. He's going to be in a bad way. And I'm fully expecting that Luke, when Rey gets there, Rey is going to have an idea of what Luke is supposed to be, only to find out that that's not what Luke is, and Luke's going to be a bit off of his rocker. Also, during the panel, Mark Hamill kind of downplayed his significance to the story, to which Kathleen Kennedy was very quick to step up and say, no, he plays a crucial part in this film. And I don't know, I have no basis whatsoever. To put this on, apart from just a gut feeling. I don't think Luke makes it out of this movie. I really don't. And it's just, again, gut feeling. But there was one point during the panel where Mark Hamill made a comment that this wasn't really his story anymore. And I don't know. Just a gut feeling. I don't think he makes it out of this movie. He also trolled the audience and said that Rey is his and then he stopped and then called Finn his son. So obviously he was messing around. I'm starting to lean further and further away from Rey being a Skywalker. And I'll tell you why here in a moment. So I don't want to get too stuck on the front side because we have a lot to get to in the trailer. They then showed us this teaser poster, this absolutely amazing piece of art that I will put in the podcast notes. And so you can go and check it out. And if you're listening to this on TwinCitiesNewsTalk.com, you can see it there as well. I know Drew is putting up a post at TwinCitiesNewsTalk.com on the Justice and Drew page. This podcast will also be there, and this poster will be there as well. That poster, which features Rey at the bottom with holding her lightsaber, and then Luke and Kylo prominently, that to me was an indication, at least, and again, this is all just instinctive reaction and gut feeling. To me, that says that Rey isn't a Skywalker. And to me, that says Rey isn't a Skywalker because Kylo was featured so prominently, and Kylo being featured so prominently without the mask, to me, says that he's the Skywalker connection along with Luke in this new trilogy. I think that Rey is going to essentially become the adopted daughter to Luke. Maybe she'll carry on the Skywalker name, but I don't think she's a Skywalker. I'm getting that feeling now, and that'll probably change 50 times before the movie comes out here 9 months from now. So with that, let's get into the trailer. And I'm going to do a quick run through shot by shot and do my best to kind of work through the dialogue here and what is actually happening. So let's start here. I'm going to replay what I played at the start of the podcast, and then I'm going to lay out my theory of what's happening in the trailer, what I think is happening in the movie, and then I'm going to work through sort of shot by shot, and I have 30 shots here in front of me that I can look at. So let's go back and again, let's play. This is an edited version, so you just get the audio portion, and I'm going to do a bit of stopping and starting here to add my comments. I think it's pretty amazing. They gave us Luke. I mean, they made a point during the panel that everybody was waiting to hear Luke's first words, and the trailer was all Luke. I was shocked.
Breathe.
So during this moment where he's saying breathe, you're getting some shots of Rey on Octu, you know, going through trials or going through training, right? And again, we'll just talk about the words for now, the dialogue.
Just breathe. Now, reach out.
Now, obviously, he's tapping into the Force.
What do you say?
Now, I'm sure somebody will do a better job at this because there's a whole bunch of dialogue here in the background of the trailer. The only thing that I picked up on was one particular thing. This is mirroring the Forceback scene, which plays into the way this trailer starts. So the Forceback scene that I'm referring to is the scene in The Force Awakens where Rey grabs the lightsaber and then sees the series of events that take place, ending with these are your first steps from Obi-Wan Kenobi, okay? I believe we're getting a similar thing here, and I actually see in the trailer itself, we're seeing the results of something similar happening to her again. So what do you see?
Light.
Okay, right there, in the trailer they show, and we'll go through this again, in the trailer they show Kylo Ren's helmet destroyed. Listen in the background, what you hear, and it's funny because I just watched Revenge of the Sith yesterday, what you hear is Palpatine during the opera scene in Revenge of the Sith with the line of the true nature of the dark side.
Darkness. The balance.
The balance. Now, what happened?
So much bigger.
And then Luke says it's so much bigger, right? And then we cut to the end.
I only know one truth.
I only know one truth.
It's time for the Jedi to end.
Okay. I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. Luke tried to. I'm going to give you the overall arc, and then I'm going to give you the details of what they lay out in the trailer. Luke tried to follow what the Jedi did shortly after the events of Return of the Jedi, right? Yoda tells Luke, pass on what you have learned. Luke starts another Jedi Academy, right? Han says that in The Force Awakens. He starts another Jedi Academy. But what happens? An apprentice turns on him and destroyed it all. And then Luke leaves. Now, also in The Force Awakens, it talked about Luke searching for artifacts, for relics. We also know that he was doing this in the comic books. In the comic books, there were certain releases where Luke was out searching for things that related to the Jedi artifacts. We also know that in the books, there are individuals searching for Sith artifacts as well, artifacts of the dark side. So Luke is trying to find out more about the Jedi. He tried to do it the old Jedi Order way, and he failed. And then he puts himself to exile, going to what is arguably the first Jedi Temple. What I think happened here, and I'll give you the evidence, I think Luke figured out that the Jedi had it all wrong. I think that this is going to completely upend what we learned in the prequel trilogy. And there's a certain... And look, this is not something that Rian Johnson, Kathleen Kennedy, and J.J. Abrams came up with on their own. This is something that George Lucas did in the Clone Wars. And so, again, I'm getting deep here, but in the Clone Wars cartoon, there is a series of 3 episodes, and they call it the Mortis arc. And I won't get into it. Go on Netflix and watch the Mortis arc. Okay? The Mortis arc completely changes the dynamic of the light side and the dark side. And we begin to learn that it's not, only the Sith deals in absolutes. The balance in the Force is a balance within the individual. The balance in the Force and being able to be a Jedi, doing that thing with my fingers, is more akin to being able to tap into both light side and dark side, but leaning more light. Snoke was keeping Kylo in that middle ground where he was battling. He feels it again, the pull of the light. And then he reaches back out to grandfather, show me again the nature of the dark side. I'm wondering if we don't see a Force ghost Anakin Skywalker, played by Hayden Christensen, who came to Celebration for the 40th anniversary. In the art book, there was concept art done of a Force ghost Anakin Skywalker that was torn between light side and dark side. In the actual ghost, it was fighting itself while he was an apparition. What I think Luke realizes, and we'll get into this right now as we start going through shot by shot. Luke, through his journey of finding out about the Jedi, goes back before the events of the prequels, goes back to, the Old Republic, and realizes that the Jedi, as we know them from the prequel trilogy, the Jedi Order, had it all wrong. The idea of a Jedi shall not know hate, nor anger, nor love, which was essentially the downfall of Anakin Skywalker. I think Luke realizes that no, you can't do that. There has to be a balance within yourself to push and pull, right? Without conflict, you don't grow. And I think what Luke realizes is that's why at the end of the trailer he says, "All that I know, man, is we got to end the Jedi because this isn't working." Which, again, is flying in the face of the way that The Force Awakens opens with Lor San Tekka in the opening of the film saying, without the Jedi, there can be no balance. I think you need to have a light side person there, but the concept of the Jedi, Luke realizes, is the wrong way to go if they want to win this fight. It's also important to know that Rian Johnson had a hand in The Force Awakens. And I think specifically he had a hand in what happened with the Forceback scene. Let's get into the trailer. The trailer opens up with what looks to be a starfield. If you watch it again, it looks to be a starfield. And then the starfield, you begin to see the light creeps in, and then you see that they're rocks, and then you have Rey falling down on her knees in a sweat and breathing heavy, right? This is exactly the same way that she essentially acted when she dealt with the Forceback scene. And I'm staring at the shot right now. If you look behind her, she's coming out of what looks to be a cave. I think that Luke is showing her something. I think she's experiencing another Forceback. And I actually think that we see a shot of what she sees later on in the trailer. So you begin to work through the trailer itself. And there's more shots of Octu, beautiful scenery shots. I mean, this movie is going to be absolutely gorgeous. Rian Johnson's style is just amazing. You see a Rey looking out over the water, standing on a cliff. You see her, levitating the rocks as Luke is talking. Breathe, just breathe. Reach out. What do you see? Right, and you see her hand down, and the rocks are beginning to move up. One of the shots while they're in the middle of this is she sees a command center with what is obviously Princess Leia standing there in front of it from behind. Then we see, when she says the dark side, we see the crushed helmet of Kylo Ren. And I believe that Kylo is going to ditch the helmet. I think he may have it for a bit, But I think Kylo wore the helmet in The Force Awakens because he was trying to fake it. He was trying to scare everybody by looking scary, by looking like Darth Vader, even though he hadn't fully completed his training. It wasn't until he ended up killing his father. Yes, Sam, Han Solo's dead. It wasn't until he killed his father, and then Snoke says, "Bring Kylo Ren to me. I need to complete his training." I think he ends up ditching the helmet because he's become full dark side, and he doesn't need the helmet to scare people anymore because he knows that he's consumed by hate and darkness now. The next shot is where we get into a bit of spoiler territory. And again, these are sort of target spoilers and things that I've learned just based off of some spy shots. So if you don't want to know, then skip ahead like a minute. In the movie, on Ahch-To, there is a gigantic tree. It's this big, huge, three-pronged tree that I believe at some point gets set on fire. I believe in this next shot where you see this wood in the background and then what looks to be a stone ledge and books with light shining on them. I think these are the books that Luke ended up going and finding on his journeys. I think these are the books on the shelf that end up showing Luke the truth. Because as you work through the trailer, you see these books. He asks Rey, "What do you see? The light, the darkness." You see Kylo Ren's helmet destroyed. That's when you hear Palpatine saying, the true nature of the dark side, right? And then the next shot you see is Rey's hand on top of an old book, and that symbol on the old book is the old Jedi Order symbol. And Rey says, "Balance." Very, very significant. On the one hand, you would argue, in the absence of other information, that, Luke is training her to be a Jedi. Makes sense, right? However, you get into what Luke is saying. She's saying balance. Luke says, "I only know one truth. The Jedi must end." Right? Let's go back to the end of that. I'll play it here again.
A balance.
It's so much bigger.
It's so much bigger.
I only know one truth. It's time for the Jedi to end.
This is going to completely upend everything that we knew before. The next shot you see is Rey on the cliff, and she's swinging around her lightsaber. I think what we uncover here, and what George Lucas did in the Mortis arc, and what we saw in the Clone Wars, was this larger idea of the Force and the Jedi. And we've talked about this before. We're moving away from this. We've already moved away from the Sith for the most part, right? And we're moving into this territory of everybody can tap into the Force. It's just those that learn how to use it and learn how to do it. And we're also moving away from the Jedi. And I think Luke realizes, just to say again, Luke realizes that the Jedi is not the way to go. That the only thing that he knows if we're going to win this battle against the dark side is you got to get rid of this idea of the Jedi, which is really interesting when you go back to the prequel trilogy and you go back to Palpatine and you go back to Revenge of the Sith, and he talks about how, the dogmatic view of the Jedi. All right, let's get back to the trailer. So you start working through this Christmas, then we get to, and this is where we have a few more target spoilers for you. We get off of the core story and we get into some of these really cool shots. And this has actually just been released, so I'm going to read this to you. I just got in front of me. You see this shot of what looks like looks like salt flats with these ships that look like B-Wings, and they're dragging shovels, kicking up this like red dirt. And if you look way off in the background, you can see walkers. So here's a bit of your spoilers. These walkers are huge. They are huge. MakingStarWars.net put out a report and said these walkers are like 2-3 times bigger than the normal walkers you'd see. And they've got these huge front legs on them that just dwarf the original walkers. He says they almost lumber like apes. And this, well, let me read to you this article, and then I'll see if it says what I already know. Red, it's the color scheme of the Last Jedi title. This comes off of Entertainment Weekly. It dominates the sky in the teaser poster. It's Star Wars, in Star Wars lore, it's traditionally the color of evil. Darth Vader's eyes had a faint red tinge, and his scarlet saber, igniting in the darkness, could strike fear in the hearts of rebel soldiers just before striking them dead. Rian Johnson, the director of the new film, employs this part of the spectrum for a specific reason, and we saw it prominently in the trailer, as speeders lined up in formation fly along the surface of a new world, dragging lines that rip up the scorched white surface into blood-colored plumes of ash. The name of the planet is Crate, C-R-A-I-T. Johnson says it's way out there. It's uncharted. It's a mineral planet, and so there are mines on it. The director noted that there are some beautiful design elements present on Crate, some of which are seen in the trailer. I hope some really unique ones that we're able to bring into it. According to Johnson, Crate is the site of an old rebel base there that's now abandoned, and the planet was one of the first things he had in mind when planning The Last Jedi. It ends up playing a key role in the movie, he says, adding that Resistance fighters flying in the skimmers seen in the trailer show up where they have to deal with a very pressing and immediate. But what is the significance of red on the surface that's kicked up by the fighters? Is the red the symbol of blood and basic human nature, but blood can stand for violence or family? So, Johnson says, go ahead and run with that. For now, we will, but there's plenty more to learn about before The Last Jedi is released. So yeah, again, this is kind of the things that I already knew. Was the fact that that's what was happening on this particular planet. The other thing that I've been told about this planet and what happens there, and this is where your spoilers come in. If you want, skip ahead 30 seconds if you don't want to know. Apparently, there's a mineral on this planet that the Resistance uses, and it's very valuable, and they end up selling it to fund their mission. Because remember now, the Republic's been wiped out. Sorry, I had a brain fart. The Republic's been wiped out at this point in time. So the Resistance is all that there is to fight against the First Order. And we learned in the panel from Rian Johnson that the First Order didn't just have Starkiller Base. And they are making aggressive moves against the Resistance to establish their foothold in the galaxy in the wake of destroying the Republic. And again, this is where The Force Awakens is going to become so much more significant, because while we sat back and watched and went, wow, they kind of just wiped out the Republic and didn't really say a whole heck of a lot about it. Well, this movie is going to lay out why this is going to end up being so important. And again, you look at some of these shots of these speeders across the landscape. It's just some beautiful, amazing shots. And the other part of it that I love is that it all looks fresh and new. They look a little bit like B-Wings, but we're not getting... Well, we get TIE fighters, and we see the Falcon, and we see some of the Resistance X-Wings. We also see quite a few ships that just look completely fresh and different. And I was told that this film... Well, actually, I heard from MakingStarWars.net. This film brings in a lot of design elements from the prequel trilogy that really go and you can't look. The CGI was early in the prequel trilogy, and certainly with HD, it shows up more so. You watch Revenge of the Sith, and I've made this argument before. I really wish that they would go back and revisit that and change some of that. Even the shots where they're standing there in front of green screen, it's pretty clear they're standing in front of green screen. Be that as it may, the design elements were absolutely beautiful in those films. And I'm really looking forward to seeing them bring that into The Last Jedi. We see Finn in a tube. More than likely, the guess there is that we're just being told that he's going to get better. Finn is in this film. You see Poe Dameron and BB-8 running down a hallway with explosions going off. Unfortunately, it looks like we see Poe Dameron's black X-Wing fighter bite the dust, which kind of stinks. I'm looking at the shot right now. Unless it's something that takes off in the background and blows up in the background and his ship makes it through. Then we get to some air battle shots in atmosphere. We see a TIE fighter blowing up We see the Millennium Falcon taking on some shots from TIE fighters from behind. The only thing of significance that I will mention with this particular shot of the Falcon is that the skyline and the clouds look an awful lot like when the Falcon was flying in on Octu. So you wonder if, and from what I've been told, again, we spend a lot of time on Octu before Rey and Luke get off the island. If they do, I think there's a good chance that this, again, could end up mirroring a lot of what we saw in The Empire Strikes Back, where, for the most part, we saw Luke in the beginning, but then he ended up on Dagobah for the whole middle part of the movie, and then only shows up at the end on Bespin. And I think that we're going to get a lot of Luke and Rey training and a lot of depth into the mythology on Octu before they are actually taken off the planet. We see a shot of Rey running with her lightsaber, just looking like a badass. Then we have a close-up shot of Kylo Ren. You can see his the scar on his face, and you can see his tri-saber, the lightsaber that he had in The Force Awakens. And again, just the shots look like Force Awakens, but it's Rian Johnson, and I'm so psyched. Moving further. This is what I wanted to get to. We have enough time. Awesome. All right. I'm staring at a shot right now from the trailer. It's Luke in a brown robe with his hood up. Assume it's Luke. R2-D2 is next to him. And if I'm not... Hold on one second. I'm not unconvinced. The shot that I'm looking at in the trailer is the one with this burning structure in the background. There's a pile of woods off to the right, and it's got somebody hooded with R2-D2 there. Those look like bodies scattered in front. Here's what I think is going on. I think this is an extension, because we're going to see it, right, of the scene in The Force Back that was used in the trailer for The Force Awakens, where Luke places his hand on R2 and he's in front of a bonfire. I think this is the Jedi Temple. There's a shot right afterwards of Captain Phasma, who we know plays a larger role in this film than she did in The Force Awakens. There's a shot of Captain Phasma coming out of something burning, okay? And it's right after this one, and there's fire. I think they're doing a trick here with the trailer. They did something similar in the trailer for The Force Awakens, where Kylo Ren is doing a hand mine deal on Poe Dameron. He screams, and then you see the forest blowing up, and you think the two are connected, and they're not. One Starkiller base going off, and the other is the interrogation scene. I think this is the scene of Luke returning for whatever reason from somewhere, and his Jedi Temple being destroyed, and his Padawans, if you will, all murdered. For one, it looks like the temple that is in the background of the Force Back scene in the rain, where you see Kylo Ren and the Knights of Ren. Two, it's too much of a coincidence to have R2 and Luke there together with something burning, unless R2 and Luke end up somewhere else together with something burning. And the shot obviously is of significance. I'm saying 98% sure that this is the shot of Luke's Jedi Temple being burnt to the ground. The other reason why I'm convinced of that is that there is no good reason for Luke to be anywhere with R2, because R2 was on the Resistance base, and I believe R2 came with Rey to Octu, but again, they'd have to leave and go someplace else. It's just way too close to be anything else other than that. Now, the next shot we see is Captain Phasma walking through fire and rubble. The thing about this particular shot as I'm looking at it, though, is that it looks like there is some neon in the background on the left, so it looks to be more of a hangar bay and flat surface. Yeah, okay. You can see in the shot that there's a reflection of some of the burning wreckage on the ground. So they make it look like the two are together, but they're not. And then you get towards the end of the trailer, and we get some really brief space battle shots above a planet with, again, some ships that I've never seen before. There's an A-wing in here. There's some X-wings. Some of them look to have a little bit of a traditional paint on it with the red stripe. Again, just looking at these shots. My wife Melinda thought that they were the Hammerhead cruisers, and they are very reminiscent of them. But again, they do have a bit of a prequel aesthetic to them. Looking at some more of these shots above this planet, and I don't know if that planet could be Octu or not. But telling us obviously that we're going to get a space battle in this, and then the final shot of the trailer, you see Luke with standing at a doorway, not a doorway, but he's standing in a passageway, and it looks like he's inside the tree. And of course, they attach the "I only know one truth," and that is that the Jedi need to end. But who knows if one has attachment to the other at all, right? In that particular shot, but it looks to be in that tree that I was mentioning earlier. Oh my gosh, I can't watch this enough, and I cannot wait to go and watch The Force Awakens tonight. I kind of had planned to do that already. My intention all along was to just kind of Star Wars geek out, and I was going to watch Rogue One tonight, but based off of what I've seen in this, I have to watch The Force Awakens tonight. So there you go. We're going to get more into this. I'm going to absorb as much commentary as I can from other individuals about what they thought about this teaser trailer. Very close to the same length and style that we got for The Force Awakens, which more than likely means the next trailer we're going to get will not happen until probably October. So this is going to have to pacify us for a while. This article that I read from came from Entertainment Weekly, though, so I would imagine that we're certainly between now and the trailer, we're going to get more photos. We're going to get the toys on Force Friday. That'll probably happen in early September. But man, I'm going to go watch the trailer again. Thank you so much for downloading the podcast again. We'll have the whole crew back together on Monday, so be sure to look for that. You can get this podcast on Spreaker, on Stitcher, on Podbean, on iTunes. We also put it up on the Twin Cities News Talk Justice and Drew page and the iTunes Twin City News Talk iTunes feed as well. Be sure to go check out Drew's blog that he has posted up at TwinCitiesNewsTalk.com on the Justice and Drew page. We'll talk to you again next week. Thank you so much for checking out the podcast, and until then, may the Force be with you always.
My Nerd World.